So there's this gentleman called Ali Abdal, who's a UK-based creator. Is massive now. He talks about productivity and all kinds of things. But when he started out, he started posting videos because he was a intern at a med school. So he joined as a medical student, not intern, I think a student at a medical school, and he started just vlogging about his experiences over there, and that's how he got his audience because
Hello everyone, this is Farkatul and you're watching HackForCode. Today I have been pleasure to host Mr. Amit Ray. Hi Amit, how are you?
hi Barkatul. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to a good conversation.
Yeah. Uh, would you please introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. So I'm the founder of a company called CrazyTok. We actually work on podcast and YouTube channels for clients, which is why actually this conversation I think will be a lot of fun. Mostly because the people we work with are usually founders themselves, or they're consultants or professionals with a lot of experience. And these are people who understand the value of personal branding, and so they're trying to put themselves out there, create some sort of a name for themselves, and just help people learn more about their kind of expertise. So that's mostly what our business is about.
Yeah, interesting. Uh, can you please tell us something about personal branding and why it is important for anyone?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. So I'll put it in three parts. So, um, personal branding is important for three reasons. The first reason is if you're a professional, so you work in a company, then having some sort of an external brand, not just being known inside your company, I think that is very helpful because nowadays it's not good enough to just do your work and kind of sit quietly and expect to get opportunities from elsewhere. So by putting yourself out there, maybe by writing LinkedIn posts or by having short videos or a blog or something like that, people tend to start noticing you. And this is one way for you to showcase your expertise in a way that you own. So nobody else is, filtering your message for you. You're actually communicating your message yourself. And so if you're a professional, this is one way for you to get noticed and be seen by recruiters. It opens up new work opportunities. If you are a little bit more senior or you have some very strong expertise in something, it might even open up speaking opportunities, consulting opportunities, and so on. And nowadays, most professionals want to have a side hustle or a next stage of their career and things like that. So by putting yourself out there, building a personal brand, I think it helps a lot in that direction. So that is the first reason. Now, if you're not a professional and you're instead a business owner or a consultant or something like that, you would have noticed that just putting things on social media from your company page isn't really working that well anymore. I can tell you from our own company examples, when I put things on our CrazyTok page or something, people do engage to some extent, but they don't really associate with it so much. It doesn't resonate with them because it's just some sort of a company just saying something. But on the other hand, if I say something from my own profile, I get a lot more reach, a lot more engagement because people want to see the person behind the company and they want to understand how that person thinks. So if you're a founder in today's world, it is important for you, of course, you have your social media strategy and to run ads and all of that, but it is important for you to also have a personal branding sort of thought process so that you can talk about your company directly with your target audience. And I think that helps tremendously in today's world. So that's the second reason for having a personal brand. I think either way, whether you're a professional or for that matter, even if you're a student or something, or you're a founder, business owner, anything like that, a personal brand and the having some sort of reach and ability to distribute your message or whatever it is you're saying opens up a lot of different opportunities. So I'll share five different kinds of things that I wrote down before we had, because I knew we were going to have this conversation. So I think the first one is access. So, once you get well known, you start to get access to people who you would not normally be able to meet. So, as an example, there is Nusair, who's the person who's behind the Nas Daily, the daily videos, short videos that he's been doing for years now. He's now so well known that he gets invited to Davos and he gets to meet, heads of government, movers and shakers, decision makers, all of that. Before this, he was a software engineer. No software engineer is going to be able to meet the prime minister of a country. So, he gets access now because he has this personal brand. So that is the first, big benefit that you're able to get. The second one, little more obvious, is endorsements and sponsorships. This is something that celebrities have been doing for a long time. But now, if you have a following, you're also a mini celebrity. And so there will be brands who want to associate with you. For example, Barkutul, your podcast becomes very popular. A lot of people decide to, tune in. Then, you might get sponsorships from Riverside or from Descript or any of these podcasting kind of tools. And so, that's one, other reason to do this. The third one, I think this is becoming more of a formula nowadays, is to sell products and services. So once you have an audience, that audience likes you and respects you, you're able to then give them products and services which might be related to your kind of brand. So as an example, Mr. Beast has Beast Burger, and he opened, I think, maybe 300 outlets. It was the fastest expansion of any fast food chain, I think, in history probably. Um, Other well-known examples, you have Gary Vaynerchuk, who has pretty much an empire now, like a media empire, where he's got so many different businesses, all running under his brand name. And so actually, maybe another example might be George Clooney. Of course, not the typical influencer type, more a celebrity. But he released this brand of tequila, a very premium tequila, which then I think got sold off or acquired for like $1 billion. Now, just through his acting career, it's unlikely he would have ever made $1 billion. But by building a business based on his reputation, he was able to, create that kind of wealth for himself. And that formula works, like I said, for creators as well, like Mr. Beast and so on. So that's the third kind of thing. Fourth one is similar to access, but you get, early investment opportunities. So because you have an audience and reach and stuff like that, a lot of startups who themselves may not be able to, market themselves so well or whatever, may ask you to associate with them in some way, take some funding from you, make you an advisor, something like that. And so therefore you might end up being, in the first round of something that becomes really, really big in future. And nobody would have invited you as a regular person, but they will invite you now because you're a popular creator. And so, that's another angle which frankly I don't think it's talked about that much either. um, Last thing, I think all of these are about money and fame and whatnot, but there's also the community building aspect. So, if you have an audience and followers, you after all are leading or managing a community and you have social influence. So even if you aren't looking for, to make money out of all of this, you will get the personal satisfaction of being able to influence so many people, affect a lot of lives, maybe do some good, that kind of thing. So I feel like for various reasons, it is something that you can benefit from. And yeah, so a bit of a long answer, Barkatul, but I'm quite kind of passionate about telling this story. And I think it is important for people to know what is possible.
The points you have mentioned are very, very important, and some points even I also haven't think about that like that. So, uh, I'm just curious. I just want to know how building a personal brand have benefited you.
Yeah, so I think all the stuff that I said earlier, some of it applies to me now in a very, very small way. It's not like anybody's inviting me to Davos anytime soon. But for my company, for example, so the way I build my personal brand is mostly on LinkedIn. And I'm actually hoping to, I did have a podcast earlier, actually, several podcasts earlier. and I'm hoping to start a YouTube channel at some point soon this year. So, but for now, it's mainly LinkedIn. And I find that when I'm posting on LinkedIn and stuff, and I tag CrazyTok, which is our company, we are able to get a lot of, I get a lot of impressions. So I have maybe uh, about almost 12,000 followers. And I've been writing regularly on LinkedIn for maybe a little over a year. So before this, I had maybe 4 or 5,000 connections, which I had built up over 10, 12 years. But in 1 year of writing, I doubled that number. And I find that when I post something, I get maybe anywhere from 2,000 impressions to 20,000 impressions. And few posts have gone viral, so that's got me like 1 million impressions. Now, when I tag my company in this, I'm getting a lot of free publicity for the work that we do. And so people remember us, and we get a lot of inbound leads from people who say, oh, you're the guy who talks about podcasting and crazy talk, or somebody told me that you do this, I would like to get in touch, that kind of thing. So that is one huge benefit, because it's free marketing for us. The second benefit that I get is in angel investing. So I'm an angel investor in a sort of very small way, but a lot of people reach out, again, because I'm a little more vocal on LinkedIn. And so people find me and they reach out to me, and they talk about their company, and they're looking for investment. I wouldn't say that I invest in many or even more, most or even many of them, but it's nice that people are finding me and giving me this opportunity to invest in their companies. Because again, if I didn't ever say anything, nobody would know about me, and they won't reach out. So I think those are the two main things. And on a broader basis, um, I've had a longish career so far. So I worked for maybe about 20 years before starting CrazyTok. And so I would consider this my second innings. And after this, again, there'll be a third innings and maybe a fourth innings and so on. So if I'm able to build some sort of a reputation and influence and audience for myself, the third innings maybe will become easier, and the fourth innings will become even easier. So at least that's my hope. But again, I'm trying to follow the same formula that I just shared with you. So yeah, so that's how it's benefited me so far.
Interesting. So how can someone, uh, some ordinary people can start building a personal brand? Like, do you have any tips, any strategy for them? Do you want to share?
Yeah, so I'm as ordinary a person as most people. So what I
Of
would
course,
say
we both
is,
are.
so what I would say is that there are three things that you need to first figure out before you start doing something. So one is identifying your niche. So you would have seen this everywhere on the internet. The moment you search for how to be a creator, the first thing you'll see is identify your niche. But what that actually means is, number one, what do you believe and what do you stand for? Because end of the day, people follow people who are real and honest and authentic. So you need to understand yourself to some extent, so that you can know what you should be talking about or sharing and things like that. Because otherwise you'll come across as fake. People can very easily spot somebody who's just saying stuff to be trendy or something like that. So one is, what do you believe and what do you stand for? Second is, within that, what is it that you know, and what is it that you know, and or you know how to do, which somebody else will be interested in. And people ask, well, I may know A, B, and C, but so many other people know A, B, and C as well. But that doesn't matter. The other people who know A, B, and C are not talking about it. You're talking about it. So, so don't worry about that. If you have some specialized kind of knowledge, then share it. So, as an example, Barkatul, you're running a podcast. You've done a few episodes, but you've not done 100 episodes. So, if you started talking about maybe being a beginning podcaster, how does it feel to be on a podcasting journey? People would be interested in that, because there are other people who are beginning podcasters who want to know what it's going to be like. So, so I think anybody has knowledge of some kind which they can share. I'll give you another very famous example. So there's this gentleman called Ali Abdal, who's a UK-based creator, is massive now. He talks about productivity and all kinds of things. But when he started out, he started posting videos because he was a intern at a med school. So he joined as a medical student, not intern, I think a student at a medical school, and he started just vlogging about his experiences over there. And that's how he got his audience, because other people who were interested in going to med school started following him. And that is not specialized knowledge. There are so many people who go to medical school, but he talked about it, and he talked about it in a interesting manner, and so on. So people started following him. So therefore, what do you believe, what do you stand for, and what do you know that other people will want to know? So just think about that a little bit. um, and when I talk about other people, the question is who exactly. So in Ali Abdal's example, it is wannabe medical students. That's a very well defined audience, not just all students or everybody in the world or something like that. So when you're talking about your audience or thinking about your audience, try to narrow it down to who exactly is that person. Can you visualize that person? Pretty much. So if you can visualize the person, then you can talk to them. And then it will feel very real, because you'll be talking to a camera, but you're actually thinking about the person that you're talking to. And that makes it quite real. Um, and finally, now that you know who's the person, what basically you want to talk about, what are the concerns that they want to address? So again, in this medical student example, what are the things that a future medical student may want to know? How much will it cost? What will my first day be like? Will I faint when I see blood? All
Hmm.
those kinds of things. So if you talk about that, then it is very relatable, and you're
Right.
addressing questions that people have. So if you do all of these, you are able to identify your niche. That is the first very important thing. The second thing over here is understand why you're doing it. So you also need to have some purpose, like a longer term purpose. Because when you're a creator or when you start this journey, it's a very long journey. You're not going to magically get a million followers after making 10 episodes of a podcast or writing 20 posts or making 30 reels. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to
Okay.
make 100 videos at least, or like 100 podcast episodes, or 1000 reels maybe, to make this thing happen. So it will take years. Now, nobody can do something for years and years with no purpose, like no
Hmm.
objective. So
Hmm.
have some objective. And that objective could be to make money. That is totally fine. Like, I want to just stop working and just do this for money, or I want to be famous, or I want to, maybe you're very altruistic and you want to give back to the world, whatever. But you need to have a purpose which you're going to constantly think about, because every few weeks you'll want to give up and this is the thing that's going to make you not give up. So that is the second thing. So understanding your why. And third thing I would say is pick one platform. One mistake that a lot of people make is that you want to do a YouTube channel, and you want to have shorts, and you want to post on Instagram and so on. You can do all of that. Also, all of us feel like doing it because we see all the big people doing it, so we assume that that's what you have to do. But the big people all started with one thing. It's not possible for anybody to run so many different things consistently for years. It's simply not possible. Also, every channel has its own little tricks. So it's very difficult to become an expert in YouTube algorithm and Instagram algorithm and LinkedIn algorithm and all simultaneously. So you're better off becoming an expert at one thing, growing your audience up to some point in that thing, and once you have a decent audience, then you start your next channel, as a second thing, and then the third thing, like that. That's how all the big people have done it. That's how you should also do it. So pick one platform. And if you're trying to decide what that platform should be, think about your audience. Where do they hang out? So where do medical students, in today's world, where would medical students typically hang out? Maybe they hang out on Snapchat, for all you know. So maybe you should be thinking about Snapchat. um, or and Related to that, I would say, is maybe also it's got to be the intersection of where are people hanging out and what is trending. The reason being that maybe a lot of people read blogs in your audience, but blogs are there are so many blogs out there, and there's no algorithm that is pushing blogs anywhere. So you will struggle to uh, make a mark with blogs, maybe. perhaps with Medium. So if you wrote on Medium and Medium does have an algorithm, maybe that is totally fine. So pick something that is that your audience hangs out in. That is the first criteria. And if you can, ideally pick a platform that is trending, because then the platform will grow, and so you will grow along with it. So like that. Maybe Threads is the platform that you want to try because it is new, and maybe Facebook is going to push it. And minor, not minor actually, but the last points over here are: start slow and then increase your frequency, versus starting like, I'm going to post 10 times a week, and then you find you can't keep it up, and then it becomes once a week. You're better off starting once a week and then making it slowly, twice, thrice, 10 times, than the other way around. So I would say these are the main ways to start. And one more very important thing is to just start.
Hmm.
We, for most of us, we, especially because, if you're conditioned by school and college and work, you're conditioned to deliver a good product. And
Hmm.
until you believe your product is good, you don't
Hmm.
want to release it. And that doesn't work in the creator economy. You're better off releasing and learning from that release, and then becoming better, than trying to be ideal and then releasing and realizing that your definition of ideal is not everybody else's definition. And this way you'll never start anyway. So you're better off in just doing first, and then after some time you'll start seeing the data and stuff, and then learning from that. So these are the 5 things. So basically, identify your niche, understand why in the long run you want to do this, pick one platform, and just start. And don't overcommit and try to do too many things and too quickly. Just start, with some, start slowly and steadily.
I think the last point maybe is the most important point of how to start personal branding, right? Just start. So you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been,
I
yeah,
completely agree. Yeah.
you have been in this space, in this personal branding space, and your company also works in this ecosystem. So uh, I just want to know what are the challenges you have been facing in your journey, and you have seen so many creators facing. So can you please discuss?
Yeah. So there are actually so many, but I'll maybe we can talk about a few.
Yeah,
So the first one is what I kind of shared earlier, which is overthinking and not starting. So you're like, oh, I want to do it this way. It has to be exactly like this. Let me think about what's my font going to be, and what are my ideal colors, and all of that stuff. And we actually have a client who has paid us money, and I think for 6 months they have yet to record their first episode, because they're still, I think in
figuring
their
out
mind they're
the.
still trying to plan it and figure it out and all of that. And what I would tell you is that you'd be lucky if you got so much attention for something bad that a lot of people noticed it. Much more likely you will do something nobody is going to notice. So uh, if you do something bad anyway, the algorithm will not push it and nobody will see it. If you do something good, somehow magically the algorithm will push it and people will see it. So you don't need to worry that you're going to make some horrible thing and a lot of people will see it, because that will not happen. It will only be your friends, and they'll joke with you for some time, and that's about it. So the biggest challenge for a new creator is not making some horrible thing and getting cancelled. The biggest challenge is getting somebody to even see your thing. And so therefore just start. Don't worry about it. The second related point is aiming for perfection. A lot of people ask me about whether they should be aiming for quality or quantity, and I would actually say aim for quantity first. I mean, I did say start slow and all of that. So what I mean by quantity is, if you have decided once a week, make sure that once a week you're doing your post. Don't not post because you're trying to make it a perfect post, or don't not record because you're trying to make it a perfect recording. So quantity first, because quantity does two things. The first thing is that uh, algorithms need some time to know that you're there and that you're serious. So once you post enough times, it will start picking you up to some extent. The second thing is, the more you post, the more you'll get better automatically. It's practice makes perfect. So if you make one podcast episode every 6 months, it will take you 10 years to make a good podcast episode. But if you do one podcast episode every week, within that same 6 months, you would have become an expert podcaster. So, so that's the thing. So quantity and frequency over, quality, because the quality will come.
Right.
Um, Third thing is a mistake people make is doing what is trending. So, oh, this week this particular topic is trending, or all the finfluencers make a lot of money. Comedians don't make so much money, so I'm going to be a finfluencer and do finance kind of shows. But if that's not your area of expertise, it's not something you're passionate about, it's not something that you can even be real, you're just going to chat GPT something and just read out that chat GPT, then people will figure it out, number one, and you also won't be able to sustain it. So don't go by trends in terms of content. Be real with your content, do things that resonate with you. You can try to play into trends in terms of format. So, oh, this week people are doing this particular kind of Instagram reel style. Let me try that style. That is totally okay. Or this trending music is happening, I want to use that as the background music for my shorts. That is totally okay. But I'm doing this topic, let's say I'm going to talk about sustainability because everybody is talking about it. That's not very good, because then you don't know enough to be authentic or expert in that space. So, so I would say that's the third mistake. Fourth mistake is tracking numbers. It is, frankly, I can't stop you from looking at numbers. You will, and I also look at my numbers, so no question about it. But don't be affected by them and don't be led by them. Because today you'll have a video. We have a client who has made maybe, let's say, 25 videos so far, one video per week. Each video gets between few hundred views to maybe a couple of thousand views, YouTube videos. One video got 25,000 views. Now, if by looking at the 25,000 view video, we are like, oh wow, this is very exciting and all of that. But I can't learn anything from it. I don't know how to make the next 25,000 video, because there's nothing in the data that tells me what was special about this. It just happened to happen that way. So there's no point in us worrying about numbers until we have so much material that the trends tell us something. Individual numbers will not tell us anything, and particularly reach and views, I don't think are worth looking at. The yeah, so if you just look at the numbers, you won't really enjoy the journey. You'll just feel demotivated. Just close your eyes and just keep doing it till you have enough material that you can start really making some sense of these numbers. Um, the next one I would say is a bit of a reverse point, which is not using the data. So what I mean by this is, don't look at the top line number. That's a vanity metric. How many subscribers and how many views is not important, especially initially. What is important is the next level metric. How much engagement, how much consumption of your video, what's the click-through rate, what are people commenting. That is the much more important thing, because that teaches you how to make better videos, better posts, better blogs, all of that. Just looking at the top line number doesn't teach you anything. It just makes you feel good or bad. So, so I would say that is the thing. Another, not mistake, but I would say a hack over here to kind of keep things going and sustainable is to keep a running list of ideas for future content. So, for example, in my case, on my phone, whenever I have a conversation with somebody, if something interesting strikes me, I'll just write down one sentence in a running list that I have for something that I want to post on LinkedIn later. So whenever I open my laptop to post, I don't start with a blank screen. I look at my list and I'm like, oh, okay, this number 5 looks interesting to me today. So I'll write about number 5. And then it's very easy to write. The hardest part is figuring out what to write. It's actually not writing. So I would say keep that running list. It will make life a lot easier for you, and it will make it very easy to sustain as well. And last thing out here, we ran a podcast meetup recently in India, and one of the things that somebody said over there, I think a lot of people feel, is that they felt very alone in the journey till we did this meetup, and he found other podcasters. Because he was like, when all my friends are out, particularly at night when it's quiet. So for podcasting, you tend to record when it's quiet. So you're
Right.
there at midnight doing your recording when everybody's partying or going out for dinner or something, and people think you're weird. And what is worse is that you're doing this and you're also only getting 20 views for your video or something like that. So it's a very lonely and um, you know, it's not very satisfying initially. And so what I would say is, to set yourself up for the long term, find other people who do similar things. So find a community or find them online or something like that, and you know, try to associate with people that way. Because if you just sit and do this by yourself, it's very hard to sustain. You can do it if you're doing social media posts, for example. That I think people get, and you don't have to sit around at night and all of that. But overall, content creation is a lonely journey because people don't have that many friends who do this for a living. So try to find your own community. So I would say these are the some of the challenges. There are many more, but these are the ones I think are top of mind, and I've heard this from many people.
So, indeed, you have mentioned great points, and me also, and also the audience, just want to hear some success stories from you. Like, how can someone, by making his personal branding, get from zero to somewhere?
Yeah. So okay, there are some obvious big stories. So your, you know, Mr. Beast, he used to be a regular person, then made YouTube videos for 10 years and became the biggest YouTuber. So obviously, those kinds of stories, I think all of us are aware of.
Yes.
I think they are motivational, but they don't teach us much because you're seeing Mr. Beast now. You're not seeing Mr. Beast from 10 years ago.
Right.
Um, I think some other ones. So on LinkedIn, for example, I see this person called Richard van der Blom, whom I would never have known. But he's a LinkedIn expert and he writes consistently on LinkedIn. So he's not a celebrity or anything like that, but on LinkedIn, he's very well known. So anybody who talks about how to write on LinkedIn, how to do well on LinkedIn, and all that, invariably ends up tagging him or quoting him or giving some stats from one of his reports. So he is, you know, famous in that particular niche. So I find that very interesting because that is the kind of fame that most of us would be aiming for. Something that is immediately useful to us. We are, of course, we want to become famous like the, you know, big famous kind of thing. But this little famous is the more likely and useful thing for us to do. So I thought that is a very, you know, a good pertinent example over here. Amongst our own clients as well, we have a lady called Ritu Mehrish who runs a podcast called Rewrite the Rules. Now, she's interviewing senior women leaders about their challenges in, you know, on their journey and what were some of the things that they experienced and so on. So it's quite interesting, and she's getting quite a lot of attention and following and buzz by doing this kind of thing. So now she's actually thinking that it's it's going to maybe grow beyond a podcast or something like that. Like it could become, like, you know, Sheryl Sandberg started this whole lean in movement for women, you know, women in the workplace. So maybe this can expand into something. She's actually planning to write a book, and, you know, do other stuff like this. So I thought that's a very useful thing, something any of us can do. Do a lot of content for some amount of time, and then because you have all that content, use it to make, you know, to write books, make courses, you know, be a speaker, that kind of stuff. So that is one example. Another example is we have a show called Yana TV where the lady who's the host interviews influential or interesting Singaporeans or people in Singapore. And over time, I can see that the caliber of her guests is, you know, is constantly uptrending. So she's getting to meet more and more interesting people, more impactful people. So it's going to give her that access. You know, the we talked about Davos. Of course, it's not Davos, but it's going to give her access to more influential Singaporeans. And maybe something will come out of that, partnerships or maybe business prospects or things like that. Another example is a relatively small show. It's called Small Talk with Raincraft. It's run by a career coach in India, and the show itself is not huge or anything like that, but the audience is very engaged. So she gets a lot of interested people who listen to her episodes and then they want help with career advice or coaching and stuff like that. And that's again what I was saying, a very direct thing. Like I run a business, I talk about my business, people come to me. So, so these are some of the success stories. I wanted to share both sides, or rather, the very famous, the locally famous like Richard, and then the maybe not so famous. You like most people wouldn't have heard about them, but they're getting what they want out of this whole thing. Like it's slowly beginning to build, and that's I think the journey. You start with some objective, sort of limited objective, try to meet that objective. Once you've done that, then you try to be bigger and bigger and so on, and the opportunities keep expanding as time goes on. So yeah, so I feel like these people are successful or getting to be successful in their own respect. And yeah, so I think anybody can do that because these are normal people not famous people.
Right. Interesting. So, how are you looking at personal branding in the future? Like, what is the future of personal branding according to you?
Yeah, so I think it's a good question. It could go in many directions, I'm sure. I think one thing I'm convinced about is that personal branding is here to stay because I mean, why not essentially? I mean, if you're doing something and you're building some knowledge and expertise, then share that expertise. So I would say first of all, just as a support for your career or for your business, or just to make sure that you have some sort of more stability or prospects in life, you should build a personal brand. So I would say that is one thing, nothing to do with evolution. But on the evolution side, I think in today's world, with AI, a lot of jobs and roles and stuff are going to be, I don't know if they'll disappear, but they'll become very different and they'll get shaken up quite a bit. I also feel like, the way work happens nowadays is changing quite a lot. See, earlier you went to an office, you sat at your desk, you worked with people who were with you in that space. You knew the difference between an employee and a non employee. But in today's world, how does work happen? You work from home or coffee shop or somewhere else. Um, you rarely go to office. You use your own equipment in many cases. The company just pays you, and you rarely meet anybody, and so on. So therefore, uh, what is the way work happens? Number one, the structure of this work, and number two, thanks to AI, I actually think the way organizations are structured is going to change. There's going to be a lot more freelancing and gig work kind of stuff happening, where companies become smaller in terms of full-time people
Hmm.
and use a lot more of expertise on an on-demand sort of basis. Now, in that world, imagine that you had to make a living for years or decades based purely on people knowing your reputation. Because in a company, whether you're good or bad worker, you're now there in the company. So they're going to use your skills, and that's the way it is set up. But now, if you have to keep selling your skills all the time so that people will work with you versus working with somebody else, and you need to make sure that you keep getting more and more money for the skill set that you have, um, in that world you have to advertise yourself, right? You're your own business, so to say. So I think in this kind of thing where companies become smaller and start working with people outside much more, each of us will have to figure out how to stand out from somebody else, and that is personal branding, because that's the only way you're going to stand out. I mean, the word is personal branding, but it's just marketing yourself, putting yourself out there, talking about the work that you do, all the stuff that we just said. And so if I were a company, would
Hmm.
I rather, if I'm looking for somebody, would I rather find the person who I've seen 20 times on LinkedIn, or
Hmm.
find some unknown gem who has never said anything ever, and I'm just going to take a chance on that person? It's not likely. I'll go to the person that I can see.
Hmm.
And so therefore, in this world or in the coming world, those who differentiate themselves by just being out there are going to be more successful, I think, than those who are maybe much better but just quiet. So not an evolution, but I think a very good reason to do it.
Exactly. Uh, what they say in Hindi, "जो दिखेगा वो बिकेगा," right?
Exactly. It's and it's going to be more of that.
So it's amazing talking to you. Like you have shared some of the great points with our audience, and I hope everyone have been benefited with these kind of conversation. So yeah, let's wrap up. And if you have anything to share with us, please please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Barkatul. First of all, I really enjoyed the conversation. Um, I haven't had the chance to talk about personal branding and why it is important in this kind of manner. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. I think it helped me clarify some thoughts, and I really hope that the people who are listening to this take away at least something. And if nothing else, take away the point that you should do something uh, to set yourself up for the future. Now, from our side, we actually help out in, I think we can help in three ways. So if anybody is interested, one thing that you can do is if you want to brainstorm something, or you want like a conversation with me, I'm more than happy to do it. So just DM me on LinkedIn. I'm sure that we'll put links in the description or something like that. So find me on LinkedIn and send me a message or a connection request with a little bit of context as to why you're reaching out, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation around that. Um, if you are, if you want to learn from peers, like you're a podcaster in particular, we actually have a very small podcast community that we are trying to grow, where we want people to come together and learn from each other, and also, we learn from them, they learn from us, and so on. So if you want to join that, again, I'll share the link with Barkatul. It's a nas.io community, nas.io/CrazyTalk Media. So just click on that and you'll be able to join the community. It's on WhatsApp, and we will be posting maybe once or twice a week all learnings that we have, and also other people in the community can share. So if you're an aspiring podcaster, or a current podcaster, maybe Barkatul yourself as well, you can join this community, and we'll
I
all
will
learn
join.
from
I will
each other.
definitely join.
Yes. And the third thing over here is, if you're just curious, so you're not in this space, you're not yet sure about whether you want to do all of this stuff. We've launched a newsletter which talks about the business of content creation. So we are just trying to take the news from around the world and try to interpret it, share our opinions on that. So it's a LinkedIn newsletter. You can subscribe to that. It will come once every couple of weeks, and you'll kind of stay in touch with what is happening. So basically, three things: either get in touch with me if you want a like a one-on-one conversation, or join our community and learn from each other, or just sign up for the newsletter and just stay in touch that way. Um, yeah, that's it actually. We are very very happy to help people on their personal branding journey. So if you need any help of any kind, I'm more than happy to do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been amazing talking to you again. Thank you so much for joining this podcast.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Barkatul. I really enjoyed this conversation. Um, so, thank you. And everyone, please like, share, subscribe to Barkatul's show.
Thank you so
It,
much.
it, yeah. So, we are all creators, must help each other. So, like, share, subscribe, comment actually also. And I would also love to see your comments if you have anything. It helps us also understand what people are thinking. So thanks, Barkatul, for the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much. Thank you. Eric.